For years, the Beckham family sold the image of unity, polished, powerful, unbreakable. But now that picture has shattered in the most public way possible. At the centre of the explosion is Brooklyn Beckham, his wife, Nicola Peltz, and her billionaire father, Nelson Peltz, a man insiders say has never been convinced Brooklyn belongs anywhere near his daughter. What started as quiet tension has now turned into an all-out family war, complete with legal letters, explosive statements, broken communication, and a line that may never be uncrossed. And the most disturbing question hanging over all of it is this: is Brooklyn Beckham acting independently, or has he been fully absorbed into the Peltz orbit? Because behind the Instagram posts and emotional declarations, there's a much deeper power struggle unfolding. The breaking point came when Brooklyn publicly turned on his parents. In a lengthy and emotional social media statement, he accused David and Victoria Beckham of controlling narratives, prioritising their brand over family, and repeatedly disrespecting his wife. He didn't soften his words. He didn't leave room for interpretation. Brooklyn made it clear he was choosing Nicola, and he had no interest in reconciliation. What shocked people wasn't just the accusations themselves. It was how final they sounded. No olive branch, no, we're working on it. Just a clean break, and according to those close to the Beckhams, the post didn't come out of nowhere. Days before Brooklyn went public, something happened behind the scenes. David and Victoria Beckham reportedly sent a private letter to their son, not through social media, not through intermediaries, but directly to him. Why? Because communication had already broken down completely. Brooklyn had allegedly issued a cease and desist notice demanding his parents stop mentioning him publicly and instructing them to communicate only through lawyers. That move alone stunned the Beckham family. But what scared them more was who they believed was behind it. Sources claim the Beckhams suspected the legal manoeuvring didn't originate with Brooklyn alone, but was heavily influenced by Nicola and her parents. The letter David and Victoria sent was described as emotional, concerned, and deeply personal. Not angry, not defensive. Just a message asking their son to give them a sign that he was okay. Instead of calming the situation, it seemed to push Brooklyn further away. Within days, the public takedown followed. Brooklyn insisted he was finally standing up for himself. He said the idea that Nicola controls him is completely backwards. He claimed his parents had controlled him for most of his life. But here's where public perception splits. Because while Brooklyn says he's free, every move he's made since cutting ties has aligned him more closely with the Peltz family. He lives within their orbit, socialises within their circle, and reportedly communicates with his parents only through intermediaries. And that has fueled a growing belief that this isn't just about family tension, it's about which family holds the power. If there's one event everyone keeps coming back to, it's the wedding. Specifically, the now infamous dance. Brooklyn has claimed his mother hijacked his first dance with Nicola. He said the moment left him humiliated. He said Nicola fled the room in tears. And while interpretations differ, one thing is consistent. That moment became symbolic of everything that came after. People who were there say the energy shifted instantly, the celebration fractured, and what should have been a bonding moment turned into a lasting wound. Even those trying to stay neutral admit the dance wasn't just about music or timing, but it was about emotion, boundaries, and perception. And for Nicola, it appears to have been the final straw. Following the wedding, reports suggest Nicola made her position crystal clear. According to accounts from people close to the situation, Brooklyn was told he couldn't have both his wife and his mother in his life. It was a choice, and Brooklyn chose Nicola. Since then, invitations have reportedly been refused, family events missed, communications severed, and insiders claim Nicola has remained firm, unwilling to attend any gathering where David and Victoria are present. Whether you view that as self-protection or manipulation depends on where you stand. But the result is undeniable. Brooklyn Beckham is now almost entirely disconnected from the family he was born into. While Nicola has taken centre stage publicly, the most powerful figure in this story rarely speaks at all. Her father, Nicola Peltz, a billionaire investor, a corporate heavyweight, a man accustomed to control, structure and leverage. And according to multiple reports, he has never been particularly impressed with Brooklyn. Sources claim Nicola Peltz has quietly dismissed Brooklyn's career attempts, from photography to cooking to lifestyle branding, seeing them as unfocused and unserious. No public insults, no open confrontation, just cold skepticism. And when a man worth billions isn't convinced by you, that matters. Especially when that man controls the family ecosystem Brooklyn now lives inside. And there's another detail that adds weight to the concerns surrounding Brooklyn's future. Before the wedding, a strict prenuptial agreement was signed. Brooklyn would not gain access to the Peltz fortune. If the marriage ever ended, he would leave with only what the couple built together. For the Beckhams, that agreement reportedly raised alarms, not because of money, but because of dependency. If Brooklyn's marriage were to fail after cutting off his parents, he wouldn't just lose his wife. He would lose his entire support system, and that fear that their son has placed his future entirely in someone else's hands has haunted David and Victoria ever since. Despite everything, those close to the Beckhams insist the door remains open. They say David and Victoria would welcome Brooklyn back immediately, no conditions, no public apology required. But Brooklyn has made his stance clear. He has no regrets. He believes he told the truth, and he feels justified in walking away. Meanwhile, his siblings continue living their lives, careers moving forward, parents publicly supportive, the family machine rolling on, except for one missing piece: Brooklyn. And while Brooklyn insists he's finally free, there are people who've known him long before Nicola and long before fame hardened into family politics, who are now speaking out, and what they're saying isn't flattering to anyone involved. One of the most unexpected voices to weigh in on this feud didn't come from Hollywood, it came from football. Brooklyn's former youth coach from his time at QPR publicly expressed sympathy for him, but not in the way many expected. He didn't take sides. He didn't defend David and Victoria. And he didn't praise Brooklyn's choices either. Instead, he described a childhood shaped by anxiety, pressure, and a strange dynamic that most people could never imagine. He talked about a teenage Brooklyn being flanked by permanent security at just 14 years old, about how fame and wealth didn't equal stability or happiness, about moments that felt deeply unsettling, even to someone used to working with children of famous parents. And while he stopped short of blaming anyone directly, the message was clear. Brooklyn didn't grow up normal, and that made him vulnerable. Vulnerable to influence, vulnerable to control, vulnerable to believing that walking away entirely was the only way to survive. Here's where the narrative becomes uncomfortable. Because when you strip away emotion, one thing becomes obvious. Nicola didn't leave her world to join Brooklyn's. Brooklyn left his to join hers. She remained close to her family. She kept her support system intact. She stayed financially independent of him. Brooklyn, on the other hand, distanced himself from his parents, lost access to the family structure he grew up in, and tied his emotional future to one household, the Peltz household. That imbalance is what worries observers. Not because Nicola is evil, not because Brooklyn is weak, but because isolation is powerful. And when someone becomes your only emotional anchor, their influence becomes absolute, even without overt control. Despite being dragged into headlines, Nicola Peltz has said nothing publicly. No denials, no clarifications, no defense of his son-in-law. And for someone as strategic as Nicola Peltz, silence is rarely accidental. Those familiar with his world describe him as decisive, blunt, and unimpressed by image alone. Reports suggest he views Brooklyn as unfocused, a young man still searching for identity while benefiting from a famous last name. That perception may not be fair, but perception matters when power is involved. And insiders say Nelson's skepticism has only deepened as Brooklyn's feud with his parents has escalated because cutting off your family doesn't read as strength in elite circles. It reads as instability. Another factor quietly shaping this feud is Brooklyn's professional identity, photography, cooking, lifestyle branding. Each pivot has drawn public scrutiny and reportedly private doubt from within the Peltz family. While David Beckham built an empire through relentless discipline, Brooklyn's path has been exploratory, inconsistent, and still unresolved. That contrast matters because when one family values legacy and endurance and the other values results and dominance, friction is inevitable. And insiders suggest Nelson Peltz has never been convinced Brooklyn brings enough to the table financially, strategically, or symbolically. Those close to David and Victoria say the shift in Brooklyn didn't happen overnight. They say it began when he started deferring decisions, when conversations became filtered, when private discussions suddenly involved lawyers. They insist their son didn't always speak this way, didn't always frame them as villains, didn't always see himself as controlled. And while Brooklyn rejects that narrative entirely, the timing is impossible to ignore. The deeper his marriage became, the further he drifted. One of the most telling aspects of this feud is who hasn't joined it. Brooklyn's siblings, they've continued posting with their parents, supporting each other publicly, living independently without severing ties. That contrast has fueled speculation that Brooklyn's situation is unique, not systemic, which raises an uncomfortable question. If the Beckham household was truly as controlling as Brooklyn claims, why did only one child walk away? Online, Brooklyn has received praise for standing up for himself. But behind closed doors, insiders say the cost has been devastating. No casual check-ins, no spontaneous family gatherings, no safety net. Every interaction is now formal, filtered, carefully managed, and once relationships reach that stage, rebuilding becomes exponentially harder. Most celebrity family dramas follow a familiar arc: shock, silence, reconciliation. This one doesn't, because this isn't just emotional, it's structural. Two powerful families, two different value systems, one son caught in the middle. And the longer it drags on, the more permanent it feels. Here's the question hanging over everything. What happens if Brooklyn ever changes his mind? Because walking away is easy when you feel righteous. Coming back requires humility and forgiveness from both sides. And while David and Victoria reportedly remain open to reconciliation, the same can't be said for everyone involved. If Brooklyn wanted to reconnect tomorrow, would Nicola support that? Would Nelson Peltz? Or has the line already been crossed? For now, the Beckham family exists in two separate realities, one moving forward together, one standing firmly apart. Brooklyn insists he has no regrets. The Beckhams insist they'll wait forever. And Nicola remains the constant, unwavering, present and central. Whether she's protecting her marriage or quietly controlling the narrative depends entirely on perspective. But one thing is undeniable. Brooklyn Beckham's life has fundamentally changed, and there may be no clean way back.